How to Tech.
What's up, everybody? Today we have the LG G6 on our table for disassembly. You can see that this phone has been shattered. You can check out that video down below called the Tough Test, where we drop test this phone when it got shattered. Phone Part World is going to set us up with a new display and back glass. I'll have a link to their site down below in the description. Free shipping over 65 bucks. It's pretty awesome. Also, any tools, reassembly video, anything you need is going to be in the description below. Hit that subscribe button. Be awesome. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is pop out the SIM card slot. It's got a nice rubber gasket around it to help that IP68 rating. Now we're going to go ahead and heat up the back glass of the phone. You want to get this fairly warm. This does have water resistance, so they're going to be using a pretty sticky adhesive all around the edge of this device. There's also some adhesive around the camera glass, and I'll show you that in just a few seconds. I'm going to get it nice and warm to the touch. I'm using a 500-degree heat gun or a hot air soldering tool. Go ahead and stick my metal pry tool in underneath the back of the display. Use a playing card to go ahead and work our way around the edge of the screen. Now this will be a lot easier if your glass is not cracked. It'll come off in one piece normally. If it is cracked, it is a little bit more tricky as the adhesive is stuck on all the little tiny shards, and we'll talk about an easier way to kind of get those up as we go through this. And so just work your card all the way around. You don't have to go very deep in. You may have to reheat the adhesive a few times during this. Once you start to feel it kind of getting stiff again, the card not wanting to go all the way through, just hit it with a little bit more heat, and that'll let it slide through just like butter. Now if you get the little shards where it's right here, you can see that it's a little bit hard to get the card in. Work your way from the inside and pull the card towards the outside of the phone. That'll go ahead and kind of give you a kind of a sawing motion, and that will make it a little bit easier to get the card through the glass on these shattered rear panels. So if you're just going a back glass, it's pretty simple. You're just going to go ahead and pull the glass off and sit right there. You can see right here's the adhesive on the back glass itself. So you're going to want to get it a little bit warmer as you kind of slide your card around. Right before you pull the glass off of the back of the phone, it would be a good idea to kind of heat this up. Try not to get the adhesive onto your camera. That would be a real pain to try to get off once it kind of gets stuck on there. Now we worked our card all the way around the outside of the phone. We can go ahead and open it up just like a book. Just pull these little adhesive pieces off of the back. That way they don't gum up the interior of the device as you're doing the disassemble. Now we're going to go ahead and take off the fingerprint sensor off the back of the phone. There's a little metal plate on top of it that kind of hits this button, and that is what activates the button portion of the fingerprint sensor. Get the little metal piece off. There's a little adhesive around the edge of it. Same thing on the interior portion of the button. There's some adhesive around the outside edge of the circle. You're just going to gently pry up on this little rubber mat here. You can see the fingerprint sensor on the back side of the little rubber gasket. We'll go ahead and pry up the little chip here. It has a little bit of adhesive under it also, and then the contact point that makes contact with the motherboard, we'll just pull that right off. That'll go ahead and remove the fingerprint sensor off of the phone. We have 11 screws to take out on the interior of the device. I'm going to go ahead and remove all 11. We can go ahead and pry up on the back plastic portion of the phone, and you'll see that the top portion is kind of stuck in. There's got a little clip down here at the bottom that's holding it in. It may be easier to take off the loudspeaker portion of the back plastic first. You can see the loudspeaker down here, the gray portion on the bottom. So if you need to replace that, a pretty simple replacement on the phone also. Here is the wireless charge mat and the top little protective plastic piece. You can see that the wireless charge mat has 4 contacts that make contact with the motherboard to give it that wireless charging on the LG G6. We're going to go ahead and pop off the battery connector, the display connector, and also the charge port connector. One thing that's awesome about this phone, we'll talk about a little bit more, is it does have a replaceable charge port. It's not soldered onto the motherboard. We can go ahead and pull up the gold tape here off of the vibration motor, and then pull up on the lower portion of the logic board and kind of wiggle it back and forth to get it to pop right out. Just be careful of the front facing camera that it doesn't get stuck and tear. We can go ahead and pop off the connector for the front facing camera and go ahead and set that aside. And then we can have our 2 cameras. We have the wide angle and the regular camera here. Go ahead and snap those off. Those are pretty easy to replace on the phone also. You can see this pink stuff on the back of the board is thermal paste. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the battery. I'm going to use a thick plastic gift card. It makes a great battery removal tool. Don't need to spend a lot of money. This card is no longer worth $25, so if you want to really spend your time looking at the code of the card, feel free to do that, but it would be to your dismay, as it has been redeemed already, probably for phone parts. We're going to go ahead and use a playing card to kind of get ourselves a little bit further under the battery once it gets started. The adhesive is kind of in rectangles underneath the battery itself. So once you get it kind of started and pried up, just be nice and gentle and take your time. You'll see that the adhesive is going to pull up with my battery in this. Just kind of stick it back down. And we'll give it that little Picasso look that your battery's always wanted. Fancy. It looks fantastic. We're going to go ahead and pull off the headphone jack. There's a little bit of adhesive under the contact point, and it's got a cool red rubber gasket on it that helps keep the water out on this phone. Interesting. We'll go ahead and pull up the earpiece speaker. Now this can be a little bit tricky as there is some edges around the speaker itself, so we have to pull out the tweezers to pull off this adhesive and then pull up on the speaker. Just be gentle. You don't want to rip these. Sometimes, depending upon the material they're made of, they can rip as you're trying to pull them out. And then when you put it back in, when you're listening to calls, it'll sound really, really raspy. You can see there's a little foam gasket on here, and it looks like a pretty solid speaker, nice and metal. It's not going to have any issues getting it out. The vibration module, we'll go ahead and pull that out. If your phone stops vibrating, you're going to want to replace that. We'll go ahead and pull up the charge port, which is pretty awesome. There's also the microphone down here. It's held on by some adhesive. You want to try to keep this stuck to the phone and make your reassembly a little bit easier. It's got a yellow gasket around the charge port. We're going to go ahead and pull up this gold tape here, and that's going to reveal the connector for our display. Just take your time as you pull this back. There's a little foam at the end, which is going to make reassembly a little bit more difficult. But it's not the end of the world. Just go ahead and pull it right off. Let's go ahead and pull up the display cable. Now you do want to be gentle with this if you're looking to keep your display. Now mine is shattered, but the display itself is still working, so I'm going to do my best to kind of keep it. If you aren't interested in doing that, you could essentially just rip the thing off. Just try not to bend your mid-frame. Although the bezel of this phone is, it's sturdy. Broke a tile in my tough test. So that's kind of interesting. We're going to go ahead and heat up the display all around the sides, get it nice and warm. This has tougher adhesive than the back of the phone, it feels like. It also is really, really hard to get a tool in around the edge of the phone. It's not perfect. You can see that there's some high spots and also a little bit larger gaps. I have a pretty solid gap down here at the bottom of my phone. So we're going to use a sharp pry tool, a little razor, to get ourselves into the bottom of the phone. We'll go ahead and pull that up. Now it's easier to get in the bottom or top as the bezel is a little bit larger. Once you get your pry tool in there, you can go ahead and use a playing card. Now I like to use the playing cards rather than a metal tool, especially on the back of the phone. That way you're not actually ripping off any of the coloring on the underside of the glass. It is ideal to use multiple playing cards. That way your display won't adhere itself back down. This display is cracked, so it will be trickier to get your card underneath and around. You may have to heat it up multiple times, and you do want to put your card in just a little tiny bit underneath the glass. Now as you work your way up, you'll get a little bit more leverage, and you can put your playing card underneath the display, but you want to make sure underneath the white portion of the display, not in between the glass and the actual display of the phone, if you're looking to maintain it or save it. You may have to use your metal pry tool to pull up some glass after you've heated it up to get your playing card underneath it. We're going to use the exact same trick we did on the back of the phone. We're going to use a little bit of a sawing motion to get our way up and underneath. As you get to the top, you may have some leftover residual glass, some on the sides of the phone. Make sure you do keep the metal earpiece speaker grill, just in case your new glass didn't come with that. So we're just going to take our time and just rip all of this stuff off. Now one thing I thought was interesting was the volume buttons didn't seem to be removable, but after I took the front glass off, you can actually push the little plastic housing that has the volume button on it, and this is actually a pretty easy way to fix it. You can actually remove it and then reinsert it. And that's it for the teardown of this LG G6. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. As always, subscribe and share this out there. The more views, the more phones. As always, I appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next one. Peace.